Hey everyone, welcome back. We just finished some painting. Did quite a few more panels for the garage. So I'll go over those and we'll install those, kind of go through it. We're on the last wall. If you missed any of my previous videos, be sure to take a look at those. But we're trying to finish up the inside of the garage. So stay tuned. So if you watched my last video, you'll see where I ended up. And I got the back loft complete here and just working on the panels on this last wall here. So we got this whole wall down here to finish up and working behind the loft. Well, I guess behind the steps at the moment. Just have this outlet here to contend with. This one has an adjustable plate that I had to put on it so I could slide the panel back in and then pull it back out to flush with the wall. And it worked out pretty good with the one behind the loft here. If you watched my last video, that one looks pretty good. While I was painting, I was able to get my last coat on the wall, cover up all the fasteners. So that turned out really good. Just have to put the wall plates back on. But that's kind of what we got going on. We're gonna continue on down this wall here and hopefully get this side finished up. Panels. You can see I got this adjustable outlet right here. I got that one moved back out, so that one worked out really nice. Got those all fastened in. And again, I'm just working my way down the wall here. So I am up about halfway down the wall, maybe a little bit further than that. So these ones go pretty fast actually. Every other panel you have to cut out for an outlet. And I just wanted to show you guys how I take the measurements on it. In case you're curious, I don't know any other way other than just measuring, and then I lay the panel on a sawhorse, measure on the sawhorse, you know, the panel, and cut the hole. And for the most part, I've had pretty good luck. I mean, there's a few of them I had to trim just a little bit more extra out. I kind of lean on the side of, you can always take more out, but you can't put it back. So, you know, some of my measurements are a little bit more precise, and they've been working out. One important step, and this is when installing these panels too, that I kind of follow, is this outside edge of every panel, when I put the level up, should be perfectly level. And you can see it is. That keeps that panel square. Now, I've been using various shims, you can see there on the floor, and that's kind of how I've been working with them. Been shimming them up a little bit at a time, just to get them level. I have some wiggle room because I'm putting some baseboard on the bottom here, so that's why there's a gap at the bottom, if you can see. And that helps to keep them off the floor, so that's perfect. That gives me the wiggle room I need to kind of shim them in place and get them all square. And that's one of the most important parts. And then you do have about 1 inch to play with up here at the top on that top channel. And you probably can't see up there, there's not enough light, but there's just a slight gap in the top of these two, which that's not gonna hurt, nobody can see those, and allows for a little bit of expansion if needed. So with that said, one of my first measurements that I take is from this channel. So what I'll do is I'll put the tape measure all the way up in the bottom of that channel, measure down to the very top of the box. And it's actually kind of this metal ring is the top of the box. So that's my first measurement. But what I do is I deduct 1/4 inch. And 1/4 inch gives me that little bit of wiggle room I need at the top as well. So I deduct 1/4 inch from that very first measurement. Once I get that first measurement, I just go ahead and measure on down from here down to here. And that gives me my next measurement. You know, it is the total from the very top down minus that 1/4 inch, but it's to the bottom of the box. And then the third measurement I take, if you look at these sheets here, see there's a little nub right there. That's the overlap, and that's where you're supposed to stop that tongue, or that overlap has to come up right to the beginning of that groove. You don't want it over that groove. You You want it right to that groove, and that's what they recommend. So that's perfect for my measurement because I'll put my tape measure right here on the end of that groove where it starts, and then I'll measure over to the very first part of the box here. So that's my measurement from there, and then I'll do it again from this line and measure to the other side. So when you're done, you'll have 4 measurements, and I write them down. So if this makes sense, you know, this is my first measurement to the side of the box. This is the top of the box. That's the bottom of the box. And this is the full left side of the box. So that's what I do, is I take all 4 of those measurements, and then I'll transfer them very, very carefully onto the actual T111 and make sure that I have all the same measurements lined up. And you can see even, you know, I even have 16th here. You know, you don't have to be that exact. I mean, the cover plate does give you a little bit of room for play here. But that's how I've been going, and these have been pretty close and not had any problems with but a few that I had to trim just a little bit more extra out. But the cover plate covered, you know, and I didn't have to worry about a gap or anything like that exposed. So that's kind of the deal. And generally speaking, I'll show you here on the thing, but these boxes are 4-inch boxes is what they are. When you come over to the panel, let me show you on this side here. This finished edge here, not the tongue side, this finished edge is what, this is what goes over that tongue there. So this goes right up to the line. So what I'm doing is I'm just measuring from that finished edge over, and then from the top down, and that's giving me all my measurements. So you can see, you know, I have all 4 corners. So I got all 4 corners with all those 4 different dimensions, and then just drew the lines and connected them. When you're done, because it's a 4-inch box, you will have, and this is where my measurements kind of come in play because I give a little bit of a leeway. This is 4 1/4 from here to here, and 4 1/4 from here to here. So that's my play, and you need that just a little bit of play just to get it around that box and to slide into place. But that's what it looks like. So now that I have my hole drawn out here that I'm going to be cutting, I'm just going to drill the hole, start right through the center. And then I'll kind of brush all this stuff off here. So then I have this cardboard cutout that I made. And the reason I made this is because it'll keep the jigsaw plate on the cardboard and not scratch up my my nicely, well, this part doesn't matter, but you know, this part you're around there, my nicely fresh painted panel. So it definitely helps. It has not marked it up at all by using this. So then the next step is just basically just cutting it out. So now that we have our hole cut, all we gotta do is carry it over there and see how well it lines up. So here's my little line, if you can see it right there. It's kind of off a little bit as you go up and down. So if I can't shim it out enough, then I will have to trim. So that's what I'm gonna work on now, is I'm gonna just put some shims down at the bottom, and we'll kind of work on that line a little bit. See if I can get that gap. If you guys can see it there, see if we can get that gap to kind of even itself out. So our line, if you can see it, it's kind of hard to see now, but it is perfectly level all the way down, including the bottom down here. Kick that in a little bit. It's perfectly level. So let's see where we're at with the panel itself. So yeah, we're perfectly level. And that's typically the case. If you keep these level all the way across and you follow that line, you won't have any problems. But you do have to adjust every now and then. So I didn't have to actually trim that panel at all then, or that cutout. It actually fit in there perfect. So I'd say that looks pretty good. I got a gap at the bottom. I got a slight gap at the top of the panel. You can't really tell from there. So the next step is I'm gonna actually fasten the very bottom down here, get some of these screws in the bottom. Once I get a few across the bottom held in place, the panel won't go anywhere. I do take time and I measure every one of my panels here, where my holes are gonna be. It just keeps everything consistent. The bottom doesn't matter as much. When you get to the top though, or the other girts, you do kind of want to keep them all consistent. And of course you want to make sure that you're hitting that girt too, which is by far the most important part. So once you keep everything in line, you're guaranteed that you got some wood behind there to screw into. So that's what I'll do, is I'll screw these first ones in here, and that'll hold the rest of the panel up then until I can get the other ones in. It's about a week later already, and just wanted to fill you in where I ended up. You can see I got this entire wall done, and I actually finished the rest of them too. I'll walk you around here and kind of show you what I ended up with. And I got one last clip which I'll throw in here right before I end off the video. It's a few minutes long, but it's when I was working on the last panel, and that one took a little while, but I'll show you what I mean on that one here in a second. So as you go down this wall here, you can see I got it done, got the base done, all the outlet covers. This box I ended up rebuilding. It was just kind of a pain. How I built the first time. I really wasn't thinking it through, I guess. And I had enough room for the handle to pick up, but really didn't have enough for my arm to reach in there. And if I ever want to change it, or I'm sure I will have to at some point, spin this and rebuild this or pull it out of the ground, one of the two. I wanted to make sure that I had enough clearance for this, not necessarily the handle because it'll come off, but the spout here, making sure that it can spin completely around and not interfere with anything. So that's why I kind of rebuilt that box. I'll throw just some pictures I had taken. I didn't take any video of it when I was rebuilding it. It took forever to do it. And I'll show you what it kind of looked like before, just the framing, and then I'll throw in a picture of the box that I framed in too. I mean, obviously you can see it here, but the unfinished box too. So throw those in now. It turned out really good though. I mean, the way I framed it and everything, I was able to use some of that LP siding on the inside here. So that's what that is, all the way around. So that turned out really nice. And accidentally, I just about line those lines up. They look really close. Just a hair off, but that was almost an accident really, but I'm glad I was able to do that. Well, I'm on the last piece. I got to get around this breaker box here. I'll show you what I got going on and what I figured out. It took a while, a lot of measuring, a lot of cutting, but I think I got it. Take a look. So here's the problem here. Not really a problem, but this box is recessed. So, you know, your outside finished walls right here, this is actually pushed back in the wall. I had a lot of discussion on some of the pole garage groups or pole barn groups, and some people said you could just push this out. Well, it's in conduit, and this conduit's in the concrete, so I don't think that's gonna flex, and even if it did, all it's gonna do is tilt forward, and then it's all gonna be slanted. So it makes no sense to try to mess with that or even try to call an electrician at this point. It's just, might as well just work around it. But you can see I added my 50 amp down there and just another 20 amp there that goes straight to the breaker box. So I should be all set here. This one's got a lot of cuts though, a lot of cuts. And you know, you're dealing with, again, not perfectly straight walls, or, you know, this track here isn't perfectly straight down, but you still want to cover it. You know, you have your lip up there that you have to get up under and tuck up underneath there. All kinds of different aspects. You want to be able to get this panel back off later. And, you know, I could frame this in like a window, frame it all the way around if I really wanted to, and then attach trim or whatever I wanted to do to it. But I want the option to be able to take this whole panel off, this whole piece, later on, if I really need to get into this electrical panel, because it'd sure be nice to be able to get in and, you know, I have all this access on the side of it. And I do have, I don't know if you can still see it, but it is right up here. This is where I'm pointing to. There's a conduit, and this conduit is the one I put in, and that goes clear up into the attic. So if I ever need to run something in there later on, I could possibly run that wire through that conduit and up into the attic. So here's what I kind of came up with, and I'll show you. It's pretty much a box, almost like a window frame. At least that's what it looks like on the front. But if you look on the back here, you can see what I did. And I had to custom cut these widths of these. So they're about 1.5 inches. The one on the other side is just a little bit smaller. But what I did was I cut that, boxed that all in based on where I needed it to fit. And that's where the measuring came in. So I had to get that girt just perfect, that girt just perfect. You know, I had just a little bit on the side, you know, a little bit on that side. So I had to box all that in there. Say it, you know, got the girts and all that correctly, you know, lined up. And then I had to take into account measurements for the trim and the wood around here as the frame part, because I needed something solid to nail that trim to. So I used some 16 gauge nails for my nailer. And then I also was able to sink some screws in to the LP siding, and that makes it really structurally sound. I guess this will get covered up. Well, I know it'll get covered up with the trim. When I put my face trim and trim this out, all those screws will be covered up anyhow, so you'll never even see any of those. But structurally, it holds that frame together, and then it gives me something to pin, you know, this part here, you know, the frame itself around it. But I'll kind of show you what it looks like when it's on. I have all the holes cut out, so I'm just getting ready to fasten it now. And I think it turned out pretty good. It's kind of what it looks like when it's on. You can see my outlets are cut out. My garage door sensor, I got that cut out. That's all cut out. You know, this edge here doesn't have to be perfect because I'm putting a corner round inside corner there. So that's all going to be covered up. Gives me a little bit of room to play with there, so it's not super tight anyhow. And that's kind of what it looks like. You know, what I'm going to actually do on top of this is put some actual trim And I don't have a small piece. I'll show you here. There's a bigger piece here. So this matches what I've been using for the baseboard here. So I'm gonna trim that out in that white is what I'm gonna do. You know, and I got enough room even on that side there. Well, I may have to cut this one a little bit down just so I can get that corner round in there. So maybe I'll trim or cut that down and then just trim it on a smaller size a little bit. But that looks pretty good, and it allows me to pull this panel off still with the screws. There's just a little bit of a gap under here, a little bit of a gap here, a little bit of a gap there. But that allows me to get all those screws off when I need to, pull that off. Or I'm gonna fasten this whole panel on with just screws. And I'm not gonna put any caulking in these ones. I'm just gonna paint over them. And then if I ever want to, I can just take those screws back out, pull that whole panel off, because it all slides out past the wood trim there. And then I can do any electrical if I need to later. So one more quick thing I wanted to add before I put this thing on. You can see I got it all painted and everything now. I did double up this back. After I thought about it, I figured out I did have some clearance back there, and I could go a little bit thicker. And what that allowed me to do was basically the inside trim here now comes up flush with it. So, and I put some more nails in there, so that makes me feel a lot better about those boards. They won't warp ever now. They got plenty of support. So overall, it turned out really good though. How I have it all attached, it'll all come off later on if I need to get in here. And I'm not gonna pull all the way off, but I'll show you that I can pull it down. Basically, all you gotta do is pull it back just a little bit and then move it over. And you can see the whole panel comes off, just like that. Again, these trims are all attached to this panel, so it's just like one big door. And it's nice because I'll be able to get back into this electrical panel later on. So hopefully that gives you guys some ideas. A lot of measuring, a lot of time involved in making this all fit and work, but I think in the end, it's a pretty good idea. Overall, it was really a great learning experience, and I guess you could call it a journey as well. You know, from when I started to where I ended up, the garage looks much different. And, you know, if you're thinking about doing it, just, you know, make sure you budget it and just set your mind to it and just keep working through it until you get it done. I have some other video ideas, like I mentioned. I'll probably put or, you know, start working on a video that basically breaks down all the costs for the materials that I used on the interior here. You know, just kind of give you guys an idea of, you know, if you were going to finish out your building, you know, what to expect in some of these material costs today. But overall, again, I'm very happy with it. And if you made it this far, definitely make sure that you're subscribed. And do me a favor, make sure you like the video. I just hit 1,000 subscribers. I just want to tell you guys thank you for that. That's kind of why I put these videos out. I just want to help people kind of answer some questions and, you know, take some criticism, or, you know, if there's better ways to do it, make sure you put a comment there. I know enough to be dangerous, but I think I did a pretty good job on this one, and should last me a long time. So yeah, make sure you check out my next video, and until then, take care.